Welcome back, everybody. We're just waiting for a few people to come in and take their seats, and then we'll begin. You know, just as people come in, for the people sitting down, I'll just have a word with you. Do you know what Albert Einstein was famous for? Do you know what he was famous for? The theory of relativity, yeah? Albert Einstein, yeah? And he talked about time as not being constant, right? And I just want you to think about that for a moment, because I think I said 15 minutes for the break, didn't I? Yeah? But 15 minutes in England means something different to 15 minutes in Saudi Arabia. I've noticed this a lot actually. When I say 15 minutes, it usually is possibly 25 minutes or a bit longer. But I did go to a place where it was longer still. Let me tell you about the place where it was longer still. That was in Afghanistan. And when I was working in Afghanistan with head teachers there, I went over twice to Kabul. And when we said a 15-minute break, it was often at least 1 hour. Yeah? So Einstein talked about time being relative, and I think I understand what he's talking about now, because in different nations time is relative, you know? It's not the same in all nations, anyhow. Right, okay, so let's start now then, if we can, having a look at, do you remember, we started off by looking at the format system. The format system, as I said, was about why are we doing something, then we look at what the thing is, and then we look at how we can use it, and then we're going to look at what if we used it in our own individual way. Right? Okay? And by the way, we're going to finish now at 12:15. I hope that's okay for you. We're going to finish at 12:15. Spot on, 12:12. Okay. And then you can make your way home struggling in the fall, okay? So, we're going to have a look now at the third element of this, which is how do we use mindsets? If you believe now, from what I've told you, that it is important to move children, students, if we can, over to having a growth mindset. The question is, how do we do that? How do we do that? Now, the challenge we've got is that their mindset is based upon a belief that they have. A belief that intelligence is fixed over there, that they have a certain amount of intelligence, they have a certain amount of talent, and they can't do much to change it, right? That's what they believe at the moment. And these students are going to be tricky for us to deal with, because they're not going to be as self-motivated as the growth mindset students. So if we can get them over here, it does two really great things. Number one is it's going to help their learning. And secondly, it's going to make your life a lot easier. Right? It will make your life easier the more the students are over here. Because they will want to learn. They will want to have challenges and treat challenges as opportunities. Whereas students over here treat challenges as something which they don't like. Right? We want them over there, don't we? Agreement? Agreement? Right. I'll say it once more and I want to hear you say yes. Agreement? Thank you so much. Right, thank you. So we've got agreement that it's a good idea for them to come over here. I want you just to read this on the screen, and as soon as you read it, you can just call out with your speakers, or ladies in the other room with the microphone. Tell me what you read. Now, You're all English specialists, probably better at English than I am actually. Now this sentence, or rather a string of letters that you're going to see, is actually made up of a few words, but they've all been put together so there's no gap between them. And you've got to try to look at this and see what you read. So when you read this, what do you see? Are you ready? As soon as you see it, just tell me what you see. Alright, so we've got here, opportunity is nowhere. Anybody else got something different? Oh, I can hear opportunity is now here, right? Now, do you know I used that flea thing earlier on to say it was a kind of metaphor or an analogy between one thing and another, right? So the fleas, it represented what can happen in a class. Do you remember? And therefore, we've got to try to release them and not let them imagine that they have limitations. Some students will look at education and say, there are no opportunities here for me. Opportunities are nowhere. In some ways, they might look at life that way and imagine that they can't achieve things, that there aren't any opportunities. They will have a fixed mindset. Other students look at things and they see learning as full of opportunity. Opportunity is now here. They have a growth mindset. The interesting thing is, you'll say here, where this central bit is, as a teacher, the students are there, some of them are viewing it as, oh, this is boring, no opportunities here. Others are viewing it as, oh, great, opportunity, fantastic, I can learn some stuff. They look at the same thing, but they experience something completely different. How we actually take on board things in life is not so much what's actually there, but rather what we kind of believe inside of us. You probably have heard a phrase that sometimes people say, which is, it's about viewing a glass of water as being half full or half empty. And I'm suggesting to you, in some ways, that students who have a fixed mindset are kind of half-empty people. They don't see the opportunity that's there. Opportunity is nowhere. Those with a growth mindset see opportunity. They see their glasses half full, that there are opportunities there. So we want to encourage them to come over this way. Would you agree? Yeah. Now, it is, though, hard to shift beliefs. Okay? It's hard to shift beliefs. It would be nice if we could just tell these students, actually, you know, growth mindsets are going to be useful for you, and that they all come over this side and say, yeah, tomorrow and today, and forevermore, I'm going to be a growth mindset. It would be nice, but it's not very practical, right? It's not really very feasible that we can do that. We have to try and try and try. But we can incorporate this into our teaching. It doesn't have to be effort, a big effort. It just has to be that we have to be aware of what we're doing. Now, let me show you this picture and tell me what you see when you look at this picture. Okay, so picture's coming up, you'll see two faces. Tell me what you see. Is there anything unusual? They're both the same. Yeah, both the same. Are they both the same? Is there anything unusual? The which one, sorry? Both smiling. Okay, they're both, so from this point of view, yeah? You're right, yeah, okay. So what is unusual? Is there one of the faces that is a bit strange? The shape of the lips, which one? The left or the right? The right, the one on the right. Would you agree? What about the eyes on the one on the right? They look a bit strange as well, don't they? Could I ask you, please, just for a moment, if you don't mind, Where's Abdullah, by the way? Abdullah, right, sorry. he goes everywhere. You know, I never know where he's going next. Thanks, Abdullah. So, what I'd like you to do, please, if you don't mind, is if you could stand up. Would you mind just standing up for a moment? Just for a moment. You all stand up. And could you please do this, if you don't mind, if you could do this. I know with your head thing, that you, I'm sorry, I don't know the name, what's the name of the head thing? Yes, shmal, that's it, shmal. I apologize, I should know that right now. But your shmal, I don't want it to come off, so you might need to hold on to it. But can you turn your heads this way, try to see it upside down? So try to get your heads right upside down if you can. Everybody, come on, have a go. Heads upside down, have a look. It's strange, isn't it? Do you see it's strange, isn't it? Right, well done everybody. You can sit down now, right? Sorry to take you out of your comfort zones there for a moment, right? Now, interestingly, if you didn't manage to get your head around the other way, this is what it looks like. Strange. Now then, going back to this one, when we first look at this, we might not see anything too strange to begin with when you first look at it. It looks okay. It's only when we start to understand and look at it that we see that actually there's something a bit unusual. And sometimes we might need to look at things in a different way, from a different angle, even turn them upside down to really understand them. And what I'm saying in a way here is that with the students that we teach, we might need them to change a viewpoint that they have, a change of viewpoint. They might need to shift the way they're looking at something. Because at the moment, the way they're looking at it, they might not be seeing the 100% reality of the way things are. We need to get them to shift, to perhaps get them to look at it this way, to see what the reality is, as opposed to what they're imagining to be. Because they might imagine at the moment that their mindset says, I have a fixed intelligence, etc. To change that belief is not easy. We need, in fact, to break the cycle. And the cycle is like this. Their self-talk, right, their self-talk is what they're saying in their heads all the time. Do you talk to yourself? All the time. Put your hands up if you talk to yourself. Hands up if you talk to yourself. Hands up if you talk to yourself. Right, I think we just got about everybody here today, which is great. Anybody not talk to themselves? No? Now that's interesting actually, because we all do, of course. In fact, you talk to yourself 3 times faster than I'm talking to you. So you're having a little discussion in your heads that operates 3 times the rate, so psychologists tell us, that I'm talking to you. If I was to stop, then your brain or your mind starts talking at 6 times the rate that I'm talking to you now. So we all have a conversation going on in our heads. Sometimes that conversation can be highly positive. Sometimes it can be negative, can't it? When we have a bad day at school, we talk to ourselves sometimes in a rather negative way. And then on other days when things are going well, we talk to ourselves in a very positive way. Correct? Yeah? We all do it, don't we? What we need to do with the students is to try to get them to talk to themselves in a positive way about their intelligence. Because at the moment, they might be speaking to themselves in a negative way. And that negativity is going to hold them back. Because the self-talk will affect their behaviour. The way that they talk to themselves will affect the way that they go about lessons, the things that they do in lessons. And I'm not talking about, good or bad behaviour as in behaving naughty or something like that. I'm talking about their general way of doing things in the classroom. If they have a negative self-talk, the behaviour is going to be negative. If they have a positive self-talk, their behaviour will result in being wholly, generally positive. And that behaviour will impact upon whatever the results that they get. And again, by the way, I'm not just talking about academic results, but I'm talking about how they go about things in terms of whether they're good with people, you know, whether they are friendly, whether they are able to form good relationships with members of staff like you, the teachers, with adults, with each other. Their self-talk will affect their behaviour, which affects their results. And of course, this then becomes like a cycle, doesn't it? Some people call that a self-fulfilling prophecy. You've probably heard that term before, self-fulfilling prophecy. It means that what we imagine to be can often turn out to be the way we actually experience it in life. Strange, isn't it, really? But what we imagine and think about can actually turn out to be the way life sort of presents itself to us. I don't know whether you've ever heard that phrase that sometimes people use, that seeing is believing. You ever heard that? Seeing is believing. And sometimes people will say to you, or a student might say to you, okay, you show me that this is worth doing, right? You show me that English is worth learning, right? You show me, let me see that English is worth learning. They're saying to you, you give it to me, you show me. What I'm going to say to you is, seeing is not believing. But actually, more accurately, believing is seeing. In other words, if we can shift their beliefs and their self-talk, they will start to get to see things in a different way. They will be able to experience knowledge and learning in a way that they've not previously done it. But they won't be able to do it until they change their self-talk. Their self-talk is what's holding them back. And you and I as educators, all of us, have a responsibility to enable their self-talk to be as positive as possible. Because we might see that their results are not very good. So we might say to them, come on, you've got to change what you do. You've got to change your behaviour. You've got to change your approach to learning. Correct? But the problem is they won't be able to until they change their self-talk. You see what I'm saying? It's hard. If you've got self-talk that's going on that says I'm rubbish, I'm not very intelligent, I can't do it, then it's very difficult for them to change their behaviour. So what we've got to do, I suggest to you, is to try to get them to change their self-talk. And we change their self-talk by, in a way, presenting them with constant information that allows them and gets them to believe and think that this is a better place to be. You see, when a baby is born, it's full of optimism, correct? You see babies like this though. Sorry, this is, obviously a UK baby, but, exactly the same in Saudi Arabia. Your babies smile, they're full of joy, aren't they? Yeah? Except when things go wrong and then they scream and cry, don't they? But, a lot of the time they're full of optimism. Life is full of opportunity. They see opportunity everywhere. They don't see opportunity nowhere. They see everywhere. Sadly, some children, I hope they don't go like this. We don't often find a child like this. Do we? We don't see children like that. I hope so, anyhow. Obviously that's been a Photoshop picture, hasn't it, right? It's set it up to make it look like that. It would be very, very sad if children were like that. They don't go like that, but sadly, they sometimes end up like that. Now, all right, again, that might be a child, a student in England, but I'm sure you find children in Saudi who are like that as well. They come into school, and right from the moment they come in, they're not interested. They don't want to learn. And it's exhausting as a teacher when you have children who don't want to learn. It's no good for them and it's no good for you. So how do we get that to change? We might say to them, you've got to change your attitude. You've got to change the way you are. But they don't know necessarily how to. How do you change attitude just like that? Very difficult. So we've got to guide them over here to have a growth mindset. Picasso, great painter as we all know, said this: all children are artists. The problem is how to remain an artist once he or she grows up. So what Pablo Picasso is saying essentially is we all have it innately within us to be artists, to be scientists, to be mathematicians, to be economists, to be doctors, to be solicitors. We all have it within us to do things, but we can start to put ourselves into a fixed mindset which limits what we can do. It pushes us, like those fleas in the jam jar, to think of limitations. Do you get what I'm saying, folks? Yeah? So what do we do? Well, I'm suggesting to you that for one thing, we need to work first of all with you. I'm so absolutely, truly delighted that you come along today. Because this is a starting point, right, for trying to do something like, on this. And I know it's going to be a challenge for you when you go back to school, I understand that. You can at least start within your own classroom. But in truth, it would be great if the whole school would embrace some of these ideas. Because many of you, I guess, how many of you teach children 11 to 16 or something like that? You teach children 11 and above? Yeah? Yeah? How many of you teach younger children, sort of 5 to 11? Does anybody teach 5 to 11s? Yeah? And maybe some of you might teach both, Right. Well, the reason I'm asking that is because particularly, let's say, in what's it when it's 11 plus? Intermediate. When you go to intermediate schools, with intermediate students and the next stage, they will be going from one lesson to another, won't they, with different teachers. And if you're teaching with a growth mindset, it will help them. It will help them even more if all of the teachers teach with a growth mindset, won't it? Right? Would you agree? If all of the teachers teach with a kind of a growth mindset themselves. So what we need in a way to do, the first thing, is to work with you as teachers. And if the more teachers we can have, the better it will be. It's not just about the teachers actually, it's about everybody in the school, so all the office staff as well, to think growth mindsets. The next one is parent mindsets. It would be great if all parents had themselves a growth mindset. When I've done this work back in the UK, a lot of teachers I work with tell me that one of the biggest things, the benefits of this, in reality, has been the way they talk to their own children. So think about the way you talk to your own children and the way that many parents talk to their children. They might say, for example, Abdullah is a nice boy, but he just doesn't work. He's lazy, right? He might say that. They might say, no, Abdul Rahman, I could always see him being an engineer. I knew he was going to be an engineer, even from when he was little. You could see he was going to be an engineer. The interesting thing is we haven't ever found engineering genes. Nobody's yet found inside human beings genes which say you're going to be an engineer, or you're not an engineer, or whatever, that you're going to be a teacher. Nobody's yet found that, of course. Maybe they will one day, but nobody knows it yet. Nobody's found musical genes. Nobody's found mathematical genes. And yet we make an assumption as parents. We might assume at times, this child is lazy. Oh, this one is going to be an engineer. This one, they're really into mathematics. They love mathematics. Maybe these children do. But what we as parents can do as well is start to produce the self-fulfilling prophecy. We tell them what they're going to be. if it's all a really positive thing, it might help them indeed. But some of the negative things that they might get from home, we're aware of as well. Not everything parents say to their children is all positive. Would you agree? And therefore, they're coming into your schools, sometimes with already having a fixed mindset. They're over there. So we have a job to bring them over this way. But we can't use the excuse, I'm going to say to you, and it is a challenge, we can't use the excuse that that's the way they are and we can't change them. We can. We can. But parents are important. And if in England, when I do the work on this, I involve the parents as well. So I talk to the parents of the children in the school. And also, it's important for the pupils as well, of course, for their mindsets. But their mindsets will not easily change until at least your mindset is growth. If your mindset is not growth with the students, don't expect them to have a growth mindset. Because even if you don't say things to them, the way you believe about things will definitely influence the way you operate in your classroom. So if we can get all of those things together, you and in the school, the parents and the pupils, then we have an unstoppable force. A force which is really unbelievable, which is really can do incredible things. Students that we might have thought wouldn't be able to achieve things, there are students around the world in schools who sometimes teachers might have perhaps failed to be able to believe that they would achieve anything. But work with them, with other teachers who might work with these students, they can start to produce amazing results. Amazing results. So, what I'm going to give you now are 10 little things that we can start doing in schools, right? And what I'd like you to do is to think about these. And they are only small things, I appreciate it. They're small things. But they lead to something which is phenomenally big. So what I'm going to do is to give you these 10 things and see which of these you think. In a moment we're going to do a little exercise for you to think which of these do you think is most important to start with. So there's 10 things. I'm going to ask you when you go back to school, what do you think will be your first thing that you will do? Now, these are not big things. We don't have to change enormously anything that we do, but they're small things. But we have to use these things on a regular basis. A regular basis. Not one-off, not just kind of one day use it or tell the students. We have to do it constantly. Because the messages that we give them might not go in first time, second time, third time, even fourth or fifth. It might take a number of times before they start to question their fixed beliefs and start to move over a bit this way. And it will work. And you can find lots of other things, but these are some things. The first thing is this. No matter what you might have previously believed, what I'm going to say to you is, we now know scientifically intelligence is not fixed. Scientists studying this will tell us that intelligence can increase, intelligence can stay plateaued, stay the same, or intelligence can go down. It doesn't stay the same. It goes up, or could stay the same, or it goes down. But it doesn't have to be fixed. Intelligence is not fixed. So tell the students that constantly. It's amazing actually when I do this work with teachers, how many of us might believe that somehow intelligence is fixed. If you previously believed that, I'm going to challenge you to say, think about it. Where does that come from? Because scientifically, as I've said, we know that intelligence is not fixed. So if you want to hold on to the belief that intelligence is fixed, it's your choice. But if you want to change it, right? Beliefs can be changed, but you might have to think about this a lot because subconsciously, even if you tell yourself, okay, I'm gonna believe that intelligence can grow, even if you say that to yourself now, your subconscious might be telling you other things. Because you've stored so much information for a long period of time, telling you maybe that intelligence is fixed, it takes time to change. Secondly, the truth that many of the most successful and creative people were once judged to have a low intelligence. Now you can seek out lots and lots and lots and lots of information on it. Look around on the internet, on the web. Just read books on it. Read books on intelligence and how intelligence, can vary, and the fact that many people who were once judged to be not intelligent, and Albert Einstein was one of them, judged to have a low intelligence when he was at school. Thomas Edison is another good example. But you can find lots of, I'm sure, for the ladies and for you gentlemen as well, find lots of female examples of ladies who have achieved tremendous things when in fact early in life they might have had limitations placed upon them. So we can find, because we are role models for the children that we teach, so for both, whether it's men or women, we need to find examples of people who were once judged to have low intelligence, but they've achieved tremendous things later in life. Another thing to kind of give a message to them is this. Give them a message of constant hope that what they are able to achieve, actually nobody actually knows. Nobody knows. Nobody would have predicted with Albert Einstein that he would have come out with the theory of relativity. Probably with Leonardo da Vinci, when he was doing the magnificent work he was doing. Maybe nobody would have predicted, couldn't have predicted, perhaps what he achieved. And it's the same with scientists, it's the same with artists, musicians, people who achieve great things in life. Maybe nobody would have believed that they would achieve what they achieved. We just don't know what they're going to achieve. The next thing is, what they will achieve, you can tell them what you will achieve will be mostly down to your effort. Somebody came up to me, one of you came up to me at break time actually and said, which is a thing that people often say, that success is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Right? You've got to, there might be 1% of inspiration or innate, whoa, great ideas, but 99% of it is down to sheer effort. Somebody, I read on the internet the other day, somebody said, the world is full of something like, let's say, 80-90% of people who have given up in life working for the 10% who didn't. Think about it. 90% of people who give up are working for the 10% who didn't. In other words, the 10% of bosses in life or successful people have 90% of the population in the world working for them. Why? Because those 90% often, I know there are circumstances, so we've got to accept that, but for 90% of people, it's because perhaps they've given up. And they give up so they accept lower expectations in their life than the 10% who did not. The next thing, to succeed or learn requires effort. We can't pretend to children that learning is always easy. It's not. Your brain uses up a tremendous amount of energy every day. That's why when you're low on nutrition, it's hard to think. It's hard to use your brain. You need some energy to be able to use your brain. But it requires effort, just like anything in life. If you want to be a top-class athlete, it requires effort. You can't just sit on a seat and think, I'm going to be a top-class runner. You have to, practice. You have to do stuff. And using our brain to learn requires effort. If they are not finding it difficult, if they're not finding it hard, tell them they're not learning. So if a student says, I'm finding this easy, you could say to them, okay, it's very interesting, right, I need to give you some stuff that you're going to find hard, because you will not learn by finding things easy. So some students go, oh yes, I find this very easy, I find this very easy, right? We don't praise them and say, well done. But rather we say, if you found it easy, I'm sorry, I'll give you some other things that are going to challenge you, because it's only by finding things difficult that you will learn. So it's a message we can constantly give. The next one is that when you learn, connections in your brain are made. Do you remember what I was saying earlier on? 86 billion neurons, 10,000 potential connections that one neuron can make with others. When we learn, new connections are made. And it makes you become more efficient at learning. You can become better at learning through learning. You become better. The more you learn, the more you can learn. It's one of those amazing things. And you become smarter, if you like. So you become better. If you like, your intelligence goes up, if you wish to call it that. You become smart. Our intelligence goes up, the more we learn, the more connections we have. So an interesting thing to say to students about this is just to get the lesson. Tell me about the connections you made today in your brain. What connections have you made? You know, so you get them used to the idea that when they learn, connections in their brain are made. It gives them something to hang on to, that they know that something actually is going on inside here. The more they learn, the more the connections are made all around their brain. The next one is, great learners learn by asking questions. And they seek support. So we don't just learn if we don't ask questions. We need to ask questions. Nothing was achieved in life by not asking questions. So we have to ask ourselves questions or ask other people to give us some help and support. We ask ourselves questions if we are going to learn. And great learners make mistakes. You know, I said to you earlier on today when I gave you that question I asked you about, and very few people wanted to give an answer. Do you remember when I said all the connections in your brain, if you link them up, how far would you get? And people kind of went like this. Don't ask me, ask him. Ask the person around me, but don't ask me. And students do that in school, don't they? Because they don't want to make a mistake, right? So making mistakes is good. To be controversial, perhaps, but you'll understand, I'm sure, what I mean here. We should celebrate failure. Oh, there's a challenge. Celebrate failure. What on earth does that mean? How should we, as educators, celebrate failure? Well, what I mean by that is, of course, we don't want people to fail. We want them to succeed. But when they do fail, we try to say, well done for trying. Because they'll only fail if they try. If they don't try, they won't fail, will they? You only fail something if you entered the game. You can't win a game of tennis by not playing a game of tennis. You have to enter the game. If you fail, you don't win the game, you might have still played a great game, great match, but you've not actually won the match, but you still could be praised for having played the game of tennis. You see what I'm saying? So we give them praise. Think about a little baby who is a few months old. And I can't remember now exactly when my children started to walk, but you know, I don't know what it is, but whenever they start to suddenly feel these strange wobbly things beneath their body that kind of wobble around when they're suddenly pulled up against the table. I've seen this with children, you know, their little legs wobble, don't they? Yeah? Because they're struggling to balance. And then one day, they look over there and they think, whoa, that's a long way to go, yeah? But I'm up for it today. I'm in for this adventure, right? They're going through the head. Can I make it over there? And then all of a sudden they launch off, don't they? Like an Apollo mission going off into space, you know? They launch off and then they go, and they fall. And as a parent, what do you say? What do you say? You say, well done. Do it again. Well done. Now what are we doing? Are we saying well done because they failed? No. We're saying well done because they tried, right? And yet, in our culture, and I'm talking about almost, when I say culture, it's all around the world, by the way, that students start to regard failure as something which is horrible. And therefore they don't enter the game. They don't enter the game. They only enter the game if they have a growth mindset. If they have a fixed mindset, they say, don't want to enter the game because if I fail, it's bad. So I won't bother. Won't bother. And you know, even those that we regard as highly intelligent, this can happen to them. Because the ones that we might have praised for their intelligence believe, if we're not careful, that intelligence is kind of inside of them, it's like it's in their genes, etc. And when they meet challenges, if they have a sense that they might fail, they back off and they go back to things that they know they can succeed at. So even those ones that we regard, or we might think are highly gifted and talented and creative and intelligent, there's a danger if they think inside of them that it's because it's just the way they are. However, if it's a growth mindset and they are intelligent at the moment, using that inverted commas by the way, but you know, speech marks intelligent here as a growth mindset, when they meet challenges, they're not afraid. Because they believe that success is about effort. So it doesn't matter what level they're at, whether it's low at the moment or there. Their belief is effort gets me there. So what else have we got? Two more things, and the two further things to think about is just this. One is, be careful what you tell yourself. Because if we tell ourselves some negative things, I can't do English. If we tell ourselves that, it becomes that self-fulfilling prophecy that we mentioned. Be careful what you tell yourself. And then the last one is, be careful what other people tell you as well. Because we might have, or a student might have, friends around them that tell them certain things. They might have parents that tell them certain things. They might have had teachers who tell them certain things that push them into a fixed mindset. We have to be careful. You get what I'm saying? Yeah? So, Abdullah, I wonder if we can give those sheets out. What we're going to do is this. You see those 10 statements, right? Now what Abdullah will do in a moment, just hold on for just about a minute, Abdullah, and then we'll give them out, right? What we're going to do is to give you these 10 statements on some sheets of paper, right? Now, the 10 statements are on 5 A4 sheets of paper, so you'll have 2 on each of 5 sheets. And therefore, please would you mind ripping them in half, so you end up with 10 sheets of paper. Are you with me? Yeah? And what you're going to do is a little exercise which you might find quite useful to use in your classrooms in general about doing work with students, right? So this is a little exercise which is going to be very useful for us to think through this. But you could adapt this exercise, if you don't already use it, for ways of working with students. And it's this. It's called a Diamond 9 exercise. Diamond 9, okay? And Diamond 9 means this. You're going to be given, as you know, 10 statements, right? 10 statements. The 10 statements are those. They are labelled not 1 to 10, but A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, and so on, right? So you'll have all of those set statements on these sheets. Remember, to make them into 10 sheets, you're going to have to rip each sheet in half. With the sheets then, I'd like you, if you don't mind, please, to move out in a moment, to move away from your seats. And there's plenty of space around here. You can go wherever you like, in a group of 3, or 2 if you wish, but let's say a group of 3. And try to form a Diamond 9. Now it's simply this. Just a bit, no, sorry. Yeah. So basically, like this, you know, you've got your 10 sheets, just to be absolutely clear about this. You just got to take the 10 sheets to begin with, rip them in half like that, right? And then you've got your 10 statements, which are those 10 things. Thanks, Alan. Now, what you're then going to do is to make a diamond nine. So you can put them on the floor, wherever you like, just spread them out, right? Spread them all out. And then in your group of 3, what you're going to do is look at these and say, you know, when I'm back in school, I think the most important thing to do is, let's say, D. Right? D is the number 1. And you basically, therefore, decide where you're going to put it. And you put that one at the top. So with your sheets, you're going to put one that you think is the most important one, okay? You with me? Then you put 2 in a shape that makes building up to a diamond that are second in importance. So you've got 2 like that. Then you look to see what you think is the third in importance, and you put them like that. Are you with me so far? And then you decide what's the next in importance. There are 2 of them together. That's 4. And then the next one is 5. Now you've got 10 statements, so one of them you're going to have to take out the diamond 9. It's the one that you think is least important. You remove it. Okay? Does that make sense? So you take that one away. Does that make sense? Now it gives you an opportunity to talk with each other about this. So please would you, in a moment when you've got this, in groups of 3, anywhere around the room you like, but could I beg you on this, please? Would you do this for me? Please don't just sit, right? Please move. If you want to, actually, you've got pretty lot of space on the table, haven't you? So you could, I think, just about make the diamond 9 on the table if you want. But make the diamond 9, right? Okay. Good. Okay. Right, I'm going to give you a bit of feedback here, right? I've only been able to see a few groups because I'm having a discussion with people, it takes time, okay? So I apologise. But I want to give you some feedback, which is this. Well done for making the effort, right? Right? And that is a growth mindset, bit of feedback. It's not saying, well done, you've done a great job. It's saying, well done for making the effort. So thank you very much for doing it, really. I can see that you've all got it. Now, the important thing with this is not really that there's any one of these that actually is the right answer. There is no right and wrong with this. There is no right and wrong. So if we go back to these statements here, if I go back to these statements that we had, the 10 statements, you would have chosen, as I know here for example, you chose as the top one, you've chosen D, which is number 4. What you can achieve will be mostly down to your effort. That's what they chose, right? Now you chose something different, didn't you? Which one did you choose? Be careful what you tell yourself. It doesn't matter, of course there is no right and wrong answer. The nice thing with this exercise when you're doing it with children, if you make statements like this, about English language learning, there isn't any right and wrong. And therefore they can feel less about having to get the right answer. Because getting the right answer is not the big thing, it's about making the effort. The other thing it does is it allows you to discuss it with each other. So it allows students to discuss whatever it is you're doing with them really well. How many of you know, can I ask you this question please, if I could? How many of you are familiar with something which is called one of two things? It's the same thing actually, but it's use different names. Assessment for learning or formative assessment. If you've heard of that, could you put your hand up please? Assessment for learning or formative assessment. You've got one hand up. Anybody else? You've heard of it? Maybe 2 or 3. This actually, Abdulrahman, might be something we really want to talk about at some stage, possibly. Because assessment for learning is a brilliant tool to help the learning of students, and it fits with helping them to have a growth mindset. So it might be something that I have the pleasure of coming back to speak to you about in the future, about using assessment for learning, or what's called formative assessment. It's brilliant and you love it. The reason I'm asking that actually is, again, with assessment for learning, one of the things you do with that is get a lot of the children to work in groups or work in partnership, and it's techniques that you can use with that. And we know how powerful that is. We'll look at this tomorrow. When I come tomorrow, we'll look at how powerful working in groups or working in pairs, peers, as they sometimes refer to, peer support, it really benefits students in all the stuff. The point here though is, what you've decided is your decision, and it's great. It's not that there's a right or wrong, it's your decision. But what I would encourage you please to do is to know what you've got as the top thing. And I would strongly encourage you, when you go back to school, to start spreading that message. Start spreading all 10 of them if you can. But at least start with the first one. That's your starting point. And then work through to 2, and then to 3, and then to 4, and then to 5, and even the one that you've got rid of, 6, bring it in at some stage. Bit by bit, you will make a difference. Bit by bit, you will make a difference. Can I once again, and I hope the ladies, you've enjoyed doing that as well, can I congratulate all of you for doing this, right? There's one last thing I'd like to do with you, right, today. Now we've gone through why we do mindsets, right? Why we do it. And I hope I'm trying to give you information that enables you to perhaps think that this is worth doing. Secondly, we've done what are mindsets. So we've gone through what they actually are. So you've got some understanding about the difference between growth mindset, fixed mindset. And maybe you'd like to read more around this. I know at least one of you has read Professor Carol Dweck's book. It's well worth getting. It's not expensive. It's only £8, so around 48 to 50 reals, that's all it is. It's a treasure. It's a treasure of a book, right? So I would strongly recommend you get it. So we've been through why, and then what, and then how. We've just been looking at some ideas. These are only starting points. You can probably think of lots of other ways of helping your students to grow their mindsets. And the earlier we start with the children, the better. But it's never too late. The fourth thing we're going to look at is just looking about if. What's your next move? What is the next thing that you're going to do? And what I would say to you is, if we do something to try to help children to have a growth mindset at your school, what effect will it have? The only thing I can tell you is the research on this shows us that it has a big impact. If we don't try it, we'll never know. But if you try it, you might find it brings about astonishing results. I've worked with schools in England, and one particular school last year had the best examination results they've ever had, ever in its history. Not only that, the teachers said that they enjoyed teaching there more than ever before. The children felt positive. We got some qualitative data about comments from people. We got quantitative data about their outcomes academically. All of it showed great positive impact. So I can only encourage you to have a go. Because in truth, nobody knows what's going to happen in your school. But I would be very optimistic that it's going to have a great impact. The research again shows us that. The other thing is, it's great fun. It's just fun. And you know, I think sometimes in education, if we're not careful, fun might go out of the window. We lose the fun. But education ought to be exciting and fun and interesting. And this allows us to have something which is completely, I believe, positive. Really interesting. If one student that you are working with, you change their mindsets from having a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, you'll have done a great job, along with the great job that I'm sure many of you do already, if not all of you. It takes everybody in the school community, so we've got to think big, start small, and then think big as well, about the whole community of people being involved in this. When I work with classes at schools back in the UK, this is a typical thing that I do, and I just want to show you the fact that, as I said, this is not just going to happen overnight. It's not something that you've just got one thing that's going to make it work. You will have to try doing this within the school a number of times. When I personally work with a school, I come in on 10 or 11 occasions working with staff, working with pupils, working with the parents, working with the support staff in the school. Getting everybody to understand what mindsets are about and how they can use them. So, as you go away today, I would suggest when you leave here is, and I can't do this for you, obviously, it's entirely up to you, but looking at you, I have a sense that you have growth mindsets, right? I feel positive about it, and I believe in you that you can make a difference. So, if you go away today and do something with this, think about the plan. What are you going to do? Are you going to speak with the head teacher? Are you going to speak with staff? How are you going to spread the word? What are you going to do? And talking about the word, I just want to leave you with one last thing. Because words are incredibly important. They can build somebody up or they can crush them. Sometimes what people say to us can make us feel very good and they can make us feel very bad. Words are very powerful. One interesting piece of research is that what we think of sometimes as being positive has negative impact. Now, this is strange. You might think that praising students is always good, and it's not. Giving praise can sometimes have a negative impact. And I want to give you this, just to compare these. And you've got other things in your book to have a look at. Abdul Rahman mentioned earlier on that we will send a copy of this PowerPoint as a PDF that you can have. I'm sorry I can't give you the PowerPoint itself because it's kind of intellectual property, but I'll send through to you the PDF of it. So you get the colour slides of this, come through as a soft copy to you as an email, okay? And you will get other statements on here for you to think about. But I want you to think about this. The last thing today, could you think about this? Here's a piece of praise. Just read it. Or this one. Now, if you were to make a choice, between those two pieces of feedback, both of them are about a child, a student, pupil who has done a good piece of work. They both start off with you did that project beautifully, don't they? So they're both saying that. So they've done something well. That's giving them, if you like, some feedback. The next bit is different. Can you look at those two and think, which would be, do you think, the most effective piece of feedback to give? And could you please just think about it in your own minds for a moment, right? And could you tell the person next to you what you think? Is it the first one or is it the second? Which of those two do you think is the most powerful, effective piece of feedback? Something that's going to help the student. Which is the best one? Talk to the person next and see what they think. Okay, folks, well done again for having that conversation. Note my feedback. Well done for having the conversation, right? Which is about what you've done. It's your actions, right? I'm giving feedback. Well done for having that conversation. Congratulations. What do you do? How many of you now think that the first one is the best one to give? Just put your hands up if you think the first one is the best. Interesting, right? How many of you think the second one is the best? So I think we've got slightly more on with the first one and the second one, I think. Yeah? Can anybody who's chosen the first one, ladies in the other room, if I can come to you first of all, if that's okay. Whichever one you've chosen, if somebody's chosen the first one, the lady in the other room, could you tell us why you've chosen that one, please, if you don't mind?
Yes.
Hello.
We chose number one.
Okay. And can you give me a reason why you felt number one was the best one?
because I like the phrase I'm proud of you, you are smart. It's more supportive for me.
Interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. Thank you very much indeed.
Welcome.
Thank you. Did any of the ladies choose the second one? Or did you all ladies choose the first one? Ladies, if you could just tell me, did anybody choose the second one, or did you unanimously chose the first one?
Yes.
Everybody chose the first one? Yeah? Okay, that's interesting. Right, now we had a mix. Sorry, carry on.
Hello?
Hello.
I think the second one.
Yeah, okay, and can you give a reason why?
Because it's more logical, I think.
It's more logical, right? Okay.
And the student can work hard.
Yeah? Okay. Great. Okay, so it's more logical. It's about the students working hard. Gentlemen, if I come to you now, anybody who would like to say who chose the first one, the reason for choosing the first one? So would anybody like to say? Any of you? Just put your hand if you... Yes, please, sir.
I think the first sentence would be more convenient for younger children.
Younger children?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than the second sentence. It would be more convenient for the adult.
Right. So what about older children?
Because the phrase like hard work really paid off, it would be more difficult to understand for a young boy.
For a young child?
Yeah.
Right. What about when they get older? Which one would you use then if they're older?
The second one.
You'd use the second.
Yeah.
So you would oscillate between younger children the first one, older children the second.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. That's great. Anybody else tell us why you've chosen the first one? Or let's go on to the second one. Who's chosen the second one? Anybody like to... I'll take this gentleman over here and I'll come to you as well. Thank you.
In the second sentence, it gives the reason for why I praised him.
Yeah.
And I told him that the project will be done.
Brilliant. Can I just move this slightly nearer to you?
Yes, I am telling the reason why I praise him, this verse, and I am asking him to, or motivate him to start in hard work.
Brilliant. Okay, so that's your reason for number two. And I'll take this one as well, if I could, just down here. Because I'll come back to the ladies if anybody else of the ladies wants to say anything as well. Sir?
I choose the second one because I think it leads to growth mindset.
Yeah.
Because the first one will put you in one level and you will stop there. You cannot proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Any ladies want to make another comment? I'll just come back to the ladies now, and then we've got 3 comments from the gentlemen, and we've had 2 from the ladies. Anybody else from the ladies' side want to make another comment?
Yes.
Hello. Yeah, if you could give your comment now.
Yes, I think that the first one is strong in the effect for the human being nature. We love to praise, and this will push us to have a good image about ourselves, and we can do more.
Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Can I thank you for all of those comments there. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't come to you as well. I do apologise. I'll talk to you later on about your comments as well. Thank you. The interesting thing here is this. Can I give you a personal example of this to try and illustrate this, right? Because what I'm going to say to you is the second one is the better one. I'm going to say that to you, right? And I'm going to say, even though I know your belief at the moment is that maybe the first one is better for the younger children, the second one is better for the older children, I'm going to actually say to you, when we emphasise the second one, it has a more powerful beneficial effect in the long term for any child, whether it's young or old. It's like this. Now, I have 3 children. If I can just say this, not me trying to linger on my children or anything like this, but just to give you a practical example. My 3 children are 28, my daughter who's Vicky, my son James is 25, and my daughter Amy is 23, right? Now Amy is obviously the last one to have gone through university. And she studied more foreign languages, so she did French and Italian. James did Chinese at university, and Vicky, the older one, she did French and Spanish. So they all did one foreign languages. They love languages. Now, Amy has always kind of had a bit of a fixed mindset, unfortunately. She tends to talk fixed mindset. James tends to talk growth mindset. Amy talks fixed mindset. She talks to herself in a fixed mindset way. So what she does is things like this. She compares herself with James and says, I'm never going to be as good as him. I'm just not as clever as him. I wish I was like him. He seems to be able to do things, dead easy. It's not true, by the way. James works very hard. But she thinks she's not able to do as well as James. Now, in her final year at university, she graduated just a year ago, her final part of university. When she was in her final year, she was lacking at times in confidence, right? So she's lacking in confidence. As a parent, you want to raise her self-esteem and confidence. You understand that, yeah? Now, as we often do at university, she gets a number of exams throughout the year, the final year. They all add up to her final result. Okay? Now, on one of these exams, she did particularly well. Beyond her expectations, she did well. Now, let's just take, as a parent, what I might say. I might say to her, Amy, well done. Congratulations. Doesn't that show how clever you are? You're as clever as James. And I'm proud of you, right? Now I might think, on the face of it, that's a good comment to give. I'm building her self-esteem, I'm telling her messages about how clever she is. However, there is a danger red light going on here. Because the danger red light is this. Red light, red light, red light. Later on in the year, if I had said that, later on in the year, Amy does another exam. She does badly. And this is true as well. She did badly in another exam. Now, as a parent, what do I say? Do I now say, because I've given her the message, aren't you clever? You've done very well. I'm proud of you. You're as good as James, aren't you? Now, what's the opposite of that? Amy, you've done very badly. I'm not proud of you at all. I'm dreadfully unhappy. And doesn't it show that you're not as intelligent as James, right? Would I say that? Would I? No. So what I might do then is keep quiet. I don't say anything. I just play as if I've almost not heard the news. But Amy is not stupid. She's not stupid. She has a brain with 86 billion neurons in it. She knows, I've said this message previously, she knows that if I don't say anything now, it's because I'm afraid to say the message in a similar way to what it was before. So what do I do? Because I know about mindsets now, right? I know about it. I understand mindsets. She does well in her exam. So what do I say? Amy, well done. You must be extremely proud of yourself. And doesn't it show that you've used some great ways of learning to achieve the result that you've got? That's what you should be proud of. You've done some great learning strategies, great learning, you've worked hard, you've got a good result. You deserve it. Right? She doesn't do well. There isn't a problem. There isn't a problem. Because now, when she doesn't do well in the exam, I can say to her, Amy, okay, you did well last time. What must have happened this time is you've done different ways of learning. You've used different strategies, because clearly you can get success. But you've used presumably different strategies. Do you want to talk to me about it? If you wish to, I'm happy to talk to you. Now, like most young people, she wouldn't want to probably. But I can give her a message which is still supportive, can't I? I'm not pulling her down. And this is what can happen in classrooms with this. You did that project beautifully. You see, you are smart. I'm proud of you. Sounds all right. What about the next time the student, if they don't do a particularly good project? This can happen, can't it? The same student, they don't do a beautiful project. Are you then as a teacher going to say, you see, you are stupid? You wouldn't, would you? I'm totally disgusted in the fact that you've not done a good piece of work. Maybe in days gone by teachers would have said that, but we know that's a daft thing, stupid thing to say, don't we? So what do? We don't say anything. It's the same as with my aim. Do you understand? So on the face of it, words might seem as if they're helpful, but we have to be careful. Words can be destructive, even if we think they're on the point of being positive and helpful. Okay. Does that make sense, everyone? Now there's a number of scenarios you'll get coming through in the PowerPoint presentation that you've got, that you will have. Okay. So, we're going to finish here, but we're back tomorrow, right? We're back tomorrow. So I know all of your faces now, and I know through a sort of I just have this sixth sense. I know all of the ladies in the other room as well. I know you're there, right? Even though I can't see you, I know you're there. So you must come back tomorrow. Are you going to come back tomorrow? And Charlotte, not even in Charlotte, yes! And Charlotte's good, but it's yes, okay. Right, so come back tomorrow. Now, before I leave, can I just thank you first of all for coming along today. I've had great fun with working with you, and I hope you've had some good fun working with each other and thinking through this. Abdul Rahman, I don't know if you want to say anything or just say... Sam would like to say something just before we go, folks. Pleasure.
يا أحباب الله يعطيكم العافية. نتوقع إن شاء الله بكرة لقاءنا يبدأ الساعة 11. يعني إن شاء الله بإذن الله بالمضي، وأتمنى من الجميع الله يجزاكم خير. وأنا عارف والله مقدر الظروف اللي إحنا نعيشها الجوية، لكن بكل أمانة إن شاء الله الموضوع يستحق. الأمر الأخير الشهادات ستكون غدا بنهاية اللقاء. الأخوة اللي ما عنده مشكلة في تسجيل البيانات معلش بالله يبادر حتى يروح عند الأستاذ سامي.